Wait, oh, don't say I've come again, oh, but there is this thing that has been bothering me from the day I became a born again Christian over 24 years ago, and all through almost 20 years doing direct pastoring in different churches, in 3 different churches, even though I don't even pastor right now. For a long time, I've been hearing from many Christians, not just pastors, so that you don't say I'm dissing pastors, about people claiming that God told them something, about people claiming they had the voice of God. And I used to wonder, how did they know it was God talking? I mean, how often have you had somebody saying, I was just in the shower brushing my teeth and God told me this? Or that I was just eating my dodo and rice. And then boom, I had God tell me, as clear as day, that Donald Trump will defeat Biden. Or that Peter Obi will be president of Nigeria by landslide. Or saying that as sure as God liveth, I had it direct from the throne that I will be the one to succeed Buhari as president. And they said with so much conviction that even I had to wonder, did God really speak to them? Abi, did God send SMS or text message, Abi email? How come they are so 100% sure that this is God talking to them? It has always baffled me, and I want to talk about it. How are you sure God just spoke to you? How are you sure you just had the voice of God when God does not even use cell phones? God does not send text. He does not send SMS, at least to the best of my knowledge, until somebody bring out the receipt. And I've never seen anyone produce the emails God sent to them that gave them the confidence that whatever they had was from God. I'm not saying they didn't hear anything, but how did they know? It was the voice of God. How come they're so sure it was God that spoke to them? I used to ask myself this. How are you sure that what you just heard or you are hearing is the voice of God and not the voice of the amala and goat's meat you ate last night? Or the strawberry that are carried with little alcohol that they gave you? How do you know it's not your selfish, manipulative ego talking? Or maybe your wishful thinking about what you want to do, or maybe what you want to happen, or maybe it's the imagination provoked by that Nollywood movie you just watched that is speaking back at you. Because some of you will go to sleep, have some kind of dream, and you're 100% sure that was God. Meanwhile, maybe it was the Nollywood movie about killing people or about hating people that you just watched. Are you sure it's God and not your imaginative, manipulative inner self that was speaking, even though you thought you were being sincere? This is a serious matter. And not just me trying to drag or ridicule anyone. No, I also have this problem. I'm not going to lie to you. When I was preaching, how many times have I gone on the pulpit and said, God told me this, that I'm 100% sure as clear as day I had it? God have mercy. And then 3 days later, it will be clear that God never told me anything like that. I went through many times and I was befuddled. I was confused. How can I be sure that the voice of God that I thought I had was not the rice and dodo my Olunike Ajoke just cooked for me with some serious fried stew? So this is not me dragging anybody. I'm dragging myself too. I used to be there when I first became a Christian, and shortly thereafter, a pastor of our church in Omaha, the Nebraska, the Redeemed Church that was started in Omaha, I was told by my guys, who meant very well, to preach only what God told me to preach, and not just be going there every Sunday to be preaching anything that occurred to me. Obviously, that was definitely sound advice from people who wish me well, who want me to run the Church of God properly. So I can't fault them, but nobody ran a seminar for me on how to know when God was speaking. And nobody gave me any phone number or email or SMS that I can call to hear God tell me what to preach for that week. That was the problem. They told me to preach the word of God and they left me. And I was so on fire for God, I actually thought, because my very first experience was like hearing an audible, and we're going to talk about that when I do the 1 hour teaching coming later. So me and my naive self, from Monday to Friday, I will be waiting to hear all week the audible voice of God before I could pick my sermon topic for the week. And when I don't hear anything, I will sit down. Of course, I have to preach something on Sunday. I will sit down, think, and preach the one I think was a good topic for the week. Mostly just listen to another pastor and then dubbing that. But while on the pulpit, I'll be feeling terrible, and something inside me will be telling me, as soon as I announce to the congregation that this is the message God gave me this week, that thing will be telling me, Ope Banwo, you're a fake pastor. Why are you lying to your congregation? When did God give you this topic now? You know you didn't hear any voice of God, but you are here saying this is the message God gave you yesterday. How? This went on for months, literally, because nobody told me how to distinguish the voice of God from my own delusions or own illusions or honest imagination or what I want my congregation to do for that week. In other words, to try to manipulate them to do something for that week without even realizing that's what I'm doing. Again, I'm talking about those who sincerely believe they are doing the work of God, not the charlatans. I'm not here to talk about those who are pretenders who deliberately lie, knowing they are lying. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those who actually sincerely felt they had from God. We all know if God is living, then he must be speaking to his creation somehow, but how? How do we distinguish his voice from our own imaginations and honest, well-intentioned delusions? Unless somebody listening to this is lying. If you have ever been on the pulpit and are telling people, God told you this, God told you that, how many times has it turned out that you now realize that it wasn't God? It couldn't have been God because of some things that happened. Even every Christian claims to hear from God. But how? Are you sure? For those who are genuinely curious about what I have learned over the years about how to separate the voice of God from the voice of CNN and social media noise, I will be doing a 1 hour training on how to hear from God and how to separate my own delusions, my own imaginations from the voice of God, and how to properly tune in to God's channel, because God is always talking. That's very clear. The question is, are you hearing? And how to double check whether what I'm hearing is from God, and to separate that from the voice of the devil, or from my own voice, or from the voice of somebody I love, or maybe that I'm infatuated with, or somebody that I respect, or from the voice of my friends. Everybody is talking to you. How do you sift it out to say, oh, this one is God? It's hard, I can tell you from experience, but doable. And it is important for us to figure these things out before we mislead too many people, or before we are misled by others, especially those of us who are followers, who believe in you as a prophet or a man that hears from God. You owe it a responsibility to be able to sift out properly the voice of God and the other voices. I will share my own little knowledge. I don't claim to have all the answers. God forbid, I don't know that. I will only share my own little knowledge and understanding on this issue using the word of God, not my own thinking, okay, that I've picked up over the years. And you want to make sure you tune in and listen to that 1 hour long training Bible study. Please check out my YouTube channel and watch it there. You won't have to agree with me, but you can at least listen to what I think after having worked this work both as a regular believer, a pastor of 3 different churches, and now just what I call a hit and run apostle. I preach and I teach when I felt like it. I don't pastor a church for various reasons that we don't need to go into here now. I'm going to share what I've learned, because I've seen a lot from the sublime to the ridiculous on this topic of people claiming to hear definitively from God. And I'm talking about honest, sincere people now, not the charlatans. In the meantime, why not make your own comments below this video on how you hear from God, if you have ever heard from him, that is, and how you separate the voice of God from your own delusions, from your own illusions, and from your own well-meaning imaginations. Be civil. We all want to learn. Just share with us. This is not dragging Christianity, but for us to learn from each other, let iron sharpen iron, so that we stop doing fake Christianity and stop misleading ourselves and others about what God allegedly told us or what God did not tell us, so that we can have a much more effective Christian life. I will see you at that full 1 hour training on how to distinguish the voice of God from your imaginations and self-delusions. It is packed. It's about 1 hour. You should listen to it. In the meantime, tell me what you think about this introductory video. I will see you at that training.